Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
This is guest host Donna Gunter. Today we have with us Dr. Aumatma Shah, fertility specialist and author. Dr. Aumatma is a naturopathic doctor with a master's in nutrition who's been practicing medicine for over 10 years. She specializes exclusively on fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum issues. As the best-selling author of Fertility Secrets, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Baby Making, she's also a sought-out speaker on the topics of fertility, women's health, and women's empowerment. Dr. Aumatma was awarded the Best Alternative Medicine Practitioner Award. She consults with clients locally in the San Francisco Bay Area and works virtually with clients all over the world. Welcome to the show, Dr. Aumatma.
Thanks so much for having me, Donna.
Well, today I wanted to talk to you about your best-selling book, Fertility Secrets. What was going on in your medical practice that made you decide to become the author of your own book?
That's a great question. You know, I started with specializing in fertility because I was really passionate about helping couples to be able to conceive and to do it in a more natural way. And the deeper I got within that field, I realized that there were very few positive messages for women that were on this path. Maybe they were not necessarily ready to start having a family yet. And the overwhelming message in this world has been, by the time you're 35, your fertility is going to start to decline and it's going to be really challenging. And I just wanted to offer a different voice and a different sense of hope and possibility for people. So that's really why I decided to write this book. And and I feel like it has done that pretty well.
Well, in addition to wanting to get the word out, you know, that things weren't so bad after age 35 to women, you know, to be a positive voice in the world of infertility, did you have any aspirations around promoting your business by writing the book, or was it just solely around getting a positive message out into the universe?
Yeah, you know, I felt like that could be a good bonus, would be to have me be more available and more out in the world as a public figure, add credibility, all of those factors that go into having a published book, that definitely felt like they would help support the business and the growth of the business.
So it sounds like you can work with people both in person in the San Francisco Bay Area where your office is, as well as work with people virtually. So you essentially could try to achieve world domination, I guess, in this issue of fertility, being a fertility specialist, because it doesn't seem like you have any boundaries about where you can serve your clients.
Yeah, exactly. We have clients all over the world. Some of our clients are online only, but a lot of them actually choose to visit us in person to get the most out of some of the hands-on therapies that we offer. So we do have people that fly in from all over and get the support that they need, and then just go back and continue working with us virtually.
Well, I know as a busy business owner and medical practitioner, it's often trying when you have this notion of wanting to write a book, of trying to figure out how the heck you're going to fit this in among all the other duties that you have with running a business, you know, providing services to your clients, whatever personal life, relationships, et cetera, that you have outside the business. So how did you end up putting your book together? Did you get a ghostwriter? Did you rely on material you'd already created? Did you transcribe some interviews? How did all that happen?
Yes. So it was very, very challenging. I actually sat on the outline that I had created for this book for 3 years. And until I met, I had been saying, I'm writing this book. And I would maybe on occasion crack open the computer and write a few paragraphs, but it was nothing that was going to actually get this book finished. So it wasn't until I met my publisher that they said, oh, we can help you finish that. And I was like, how? And they said, well, we'll just interview you because you seem to be better at speaking than wanting to sit down and write. And that way you prepare the content beforehand, know what you're going to talk about, and then we'll interview you so that we can get it all on paper. So they did basically transcriptions of the interviews, but it was not such a like, how would I say it? Like it was a very like decisive, concisive way to get all of the content that was in my head out onto paper. And then we went through about 8 or 9 months of editing. So it was still a lot, but it helped to at least like create the structure and the foundation to be able to create this living, breathing piece of work called a book.
And I imagine it took you a lot less time. I mean, even though it does sound like there was, time involved with the rewrites, but much less time than had you done this all on your own, setting aside, I don't know, an hour a day to write X number of words and do that repeatedly for a year or 2 years.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I feel like this is a much easier process and a much easier approach than to have to sit. I mean, if you're good at sitting down and just writing on your own, that's awesome. I think writing a book could be really easy and fun. But for someone like me who would rather just be engaging with people, it was a very challenging task to sit down and write.
As it is for most people who've got busy lives, even though I love to write and I have always loved to write, I know that I'm a lone wolf almost in that love of writing, because most of my peers, most of my friends, they would rather do anything than write. They could talk all day, talk to other people all day, and I'm an introvert, and writing is my thing. So, while I'm the oddball, you're the normal person in this whole writing gambit that we have. Well, once your publisher got your book together and everything was approved and you went to print, what kinds of distribution methods did you use to get the word out about the book?
It's mostly been distributed online, and then I usually have copies of my book if I'm speaking or teaching, but those are the less prevalent ways. We've mostly just focused on Amazon.
I see. So did you do anything beyond Amazon sales to integrate the book into your regular marketing strategies that you perform for your practice, whether that's regular emails you send out to people or, mailing the book out to former clients, current clients, vendors, colleagues, et cetera, anything like that?
Yes. So the way that the book is structured, there's lots of opportunities for people to get additional resources. So when they opt in to get some of the additional resources, it also opts them into our mailing list. And when they subscribe, then they're getting information about ongoing programs and things that I'm launching. It hasn't necessarily been the kind of how would I say, like the massive news mailing list growth that I would have liked to see. But I think that the people that did opt in to get additional resources have been super engaged, and quite a few of them have become clients. So it does feed into the marketing system or marketing like trajectory that we have for our practice. It becomes one of the foundational things that I can say, oh, yeah, here is my book. If you're interested in working with me, you can reach out, read the book, kind of get a sense of where I'm coming from and what is my approach to fertility. And then if it resonates, you can reach out, or you can find us online or engage with us in other ways that then eventually could become a client in the practice.
I know some authors who have a geographical practice like you do, brick and mortar type of business. They reach out to local bookstores to try and carry their books. Sometimes they have much better luck with independent bookstores than chain bookstores. Was that ever on the horizon as a marketing strategy for your book?
That sounds brilliant. I think I should still do that. I hadn't considered it. I know that the publisher that I worked with is very much focused on just their plan of like using Amazon, getting on the bestsellers list, and then using it for publicity in other ways. So it has led to several large media gigs. I was on TV a few times. I've been interviewed a bunch of times. So it does the book has helped to like increase the platform that I have to spread the message that I would like more people to hear. So that's been wonderful. But I do think that the idea of putting it in local bookstores is pretty brilliant. And I'll definitely see if I can either follow up with local bookstores or maybe even just reach out to the publisher and see what they think about that.
Well, you might offer a book signing while you're at it that you invite clients, your clients that live in the local area to. That would be a win-win for everybody. Gets new foot traffic into a bookstore and might remind your clients of you if they've forgotten you. I can't imagine that would be the case because of the nature of the way that you deal with clients, in terms of the issue that you help resolve. But
right.
That might be a win-win for both. While you're going after that, just go for the whole enchilada.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. I don't know I hadn't thought of that, or I guess this was not necessarily my forte. I just ended up writing a book because I was passionate about it.
Right.
But I think other ways to promote it definitely sounds like a win-win.
Well, you talk about that you've gotten a lot of interviews, television appearances, speaking gigs as a result of publishing the book. Did you find that process easier with getting that media attention after you published the book than before?
Absolutely. I hadn't tried necessarily to be on TV prior to the book, but having a bigger platform definitely was supported by the book.
And I'm assuming that there may have been some changes in perception from friends and family, colleagues, vendors, business partners, et cetera, once you became an author. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. It definitely has maybe differentiated me or helps me stand out from my other colleagues. And one of my goals has been to eventually have a training program for other practitioners that would like to be fertility experts. So that training program is actually launching very soon. And the book has kind of helped to support that vision in the sense of other practitioners or colleagues who have read the book and said, hey, I really like your approach. How do I learn more, or how do I train in this? And that has really helped to launch one of my other passions, which is to train other professionals in doing what I do.
Now, was training other practitioners even remotely on your radar before you wrote the book?
It was. When I initially started to specialize in fertility, I had already been in practice for a few years. Probably at that point, I want to say like 5 or 6 years in doing general women's health, hormones, all of that kind of stuff. But when I started to specialize in fertility, I simultaneously had a vision that I was supposed to be teaching and supporting other practitioners to increase their ability to support couples that are going through this struggle. And then I kind of had that vision, and I was like, yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. One day. And then here we are like 6 or 7 years later. I I have this book, I have a really busy clinical practice, and it was September last year that a practitioner from Germany actually reached out to me and said, hey, I want to train with you. How do I do that? And at first I was like, no, we can't do that. And then I continued talking to her, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my vision from years ago that I really need to like follow through on. And she has been the person that is like motivating me to launch this training. So it's beautiful. In a lot of ways, I feel like my life kind of happens that way, is like, oh, I have this vision, and then I'll put it on a back burner somewhere, and then years later someone will say, why aren't you doing this? Which then motivates me to do it. So,
well, that's a really cool story about how your book prompted you, or I guess maybe moved you ahead into a long-held dream of teaching other practitioners to do what you do in the way that you did that. So, I have news for you. Now you need to write, your new book needs to be aimed at fertility practitioners who want to turbocharge their practice, or, however you want to talk about that, in terms of training them, to get them excited about them enrolling in your training program. Of course, you have to launch a training program first, but having the book run on its coattails would probably be a great idea as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we're launching that training program this year, and the plan is to write a more in-depth book, probably directed more towards practitioners that are interested in becoming fertility experts. So yeah, it's on the horizon.
Awesome. Is your training going to be done in person or virtually, digitally online?
It's going to be a combination. So it's a year-long training program, and we will be doing monthly virtual meetings and then 3 in-person retreats over the course of 12 months, as well as the option to be in observation mode in my physical practice here, or be in observation mode on an online program. So it will offer quite a bit of support and training, and the goal is really that they walk out of this training with the ability to face head-on some of the more challenging aspects of working with the fertility couples.
Well, that is an awesome opportunity, it sounds like, for someone to work with somebody of your caliber, to get the inside scoop on stuff. I was talking to another author recently about things that kind of happened in a surprising way as a result of publishing a book. And in his particular experience, he's a patent attorney, and he's now part of a committee putting together a spaceport. Believe it or not, I'm not quite sure what trademarks and patents have to do with spaceports, but they were attracted to his writing style. Have you had any unseen or unforeseen, kind of surprising activities, events happen as a result of being an author of a book?
That's really interesting. I can't say that there's been anything like out of the extraordinary, nothing unusual, I would say.
Except maybe for the development, I guess, of your training program. Kind of took you in a direction you weren't quite expecting.
Yeah, it's like things that would happen eventually that I think are fast-tracked by having a book. So I feel like, TV interviews or radio interviews or podcasts or whatever it is, a lot of it had already been happening and a lot of it has continued to happen. But I think the kind of media acceptance of someone talking about an unconventional approach to fertility, an unconventional approach to even thinking about how we approach fertility is less likely to happen without a book, right? Like, it could have happened anyway on its own, and maybe it would have happened 15 years from now, but it's happening now, and I feel like part of that speed has to do with writing the book. So, you know, is the training program unusual or unexpected? Probably not, but it's happening much sooner than I would expect it to happen based on where I'm in my practice and all of that. And I think part of that is people having access to, like, oh, this is how she thinks about fertility. I want more of this, right? Versus when you don't have a book necessarily, you don't have all of your thoughts kind of in, I mean, they're not all of my thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. But you have like a structure to your approach and your process, and putting it down on paper makes it much more accessible to other people who then are like, oh, I understand this. This is how I think about things too. And I want to like connect with that and do more of that. So I think it helps to speed up or fast track the eventual things that might have happened, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And it really helps convey your way of doing things, your thoughts on a particular topic. I was reading today, I think this guy is in the coaching consulting industry, and the question came up in a group about what kind of advertising that he did for his practice. And he said, well, you know, I publish blog posts and I do a podcast and I have my books, and people either love me or hate me. You know, if they buy into my way of thinking, the way I do things, the way I operate, then they are eager fans and they hire me. You know, they show up just wanting to hire me. If they don't, they don't. He says, that's the only advertising that I do. So you get a really clear view of who, you know, all those things come together to give you a really clear view of who I am and what I'm about. And if that doesn't resonate with you, well, you know, go find somebody that you resonate with. So I'm assuming your take on fertility probably serves the same purpose with your potential clients, your prospects.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I know the next thing that might be coming down the pike for you will be the natural question of, oh, you published a book. How can I publish a book for my fertility practice?
That's a good question. So I think the process, I would say, is really to like create an outline, have a sense of what do you want to put out into the world, and then like take a look at what's out there, right? Is it really any different than what's already on the market? And if it is, awesome. Like, then you have a proposal to bring either to publishers and pitch it or self-publish it, whichever route you choose. I think either one is fine. And create a game plan based on, okay, so if I write this book, what does that lead to? And I think the main thing that I would say is, had I known what I know now, I would have very much focused on building a following and building a bigger community around what I'm doing before going out and publishing the book. And I don't know if that makes sense, and it sometimes feels like a chicken and egg scenario, but right. I feel like having a bigger platform would have had a bigger impact on a launch. But also, there's also the side of, well, having a book also helps you grow your platform. So again, chicken and egg, but I think personally for me, I would have probably focused on creating a bigger brand presence before even getting to the point of publishing the book.
Well, I know with a lot of clients who are in a little bit more traditional industries, you know, they're accountants or dentists or plastic surgeons, that kind of thing. if they take a look around in the town where they practice, and if they maybe, there are 20 other dentists in addition to my client, in most cases, the client that I'm working with, the dentist I'm working with, is the only dentist in that area who has a published book. Did you find that to be the case with your competition in your geographic area, that you were one of the few fertility specialists with your own book?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I feel like there are very few practitioners that have published books, let alone books about fertility. So, yeah, I am definitely in the minority in my profession, in my colleague circle. Yeah.
If you had to ballpark the number of clients that are converting from prospects to clients that are walking in your door, literally or figuratively these days, what percentage of them would you say have read all or parts of your book before approaching you to work with them?
Maybe like 10%. And the reason that I give such a low number is because the majority of people will purchase a book, have it sit on their shelf for years, or in the case of fertility, probably a few months, and then just say, forget it, I'll just call the person that wrote this book and just figure out if I can work with her, right? So I feel like less people actually read the books that they purchase, and I am definitely in that population of like, hey, I'd love to read this book, and then what I end up doing is, let me just join this person's program because I cannot, I can read the book, it'll take me a while, or I can just participate in the program and get the hands-on kind of support that I would need to reach whatever goal it is that I'm trying to reach. So, and I think that's the same for probably most of my patients. So what I end up doing is I know that the majority of them have the book, or maybe they hadn't even known that I published a book, but it's available in our office. So they come in person, they're like, oh, this is your book. And I'm like, yeah, sure. You can have a copy. And most of them are like, no, absolutely not. I want to pay for this. Like, I want to support what you created, and then they'll purchase the book and it will sit there again. So what I've ended up doing is saying, I really want to highlight chapter 4 in the book. Go read it. The next time I see you, I want to be able to talk to you about it as if you've read it and applied some of the tools that I gave you in that chapter. So I've started using it more of a resource for people to get more information and more tools than me having to talk to them again and again about the same thing in the office. I'm like, I have a book about this, right? So,
I guess you could always use your teacher's strategy of giving them a pop quiz when they walk back into your office.
No pop quizzes in our office, but I know that they definitely they will come back and say, oh my God, that was amazing. Thank you so much for making me read it, or whatever it is, and it gives them, I feel like it gives them more context, and because the book is written in such a easy to read way, like there's lots of stories, examples of what other patients experience, and they get this, even if they read one chapter in the book, they get a sense of, oh, I totally relate to that. Like, that is me. And when they have that connection, they then will be more motivated to do what I tell them to. They'll be more motivated to take the steps that I know will help them get to their goal, but they don't necessarily know yet, right? So it just gets more buy-in, and it gets more ease for patients to say, like, oh yeah, that's totally me. You're describing me. And I've seen this happen over and over again. And I guess that's an unusual thing that I didn't necessarily expect to happen with the book, is really to have have it as a resource for people who are already my patients. So I'm not trying to sell them anything, but it gives them more information, it gives them more context, and it really helps them to buy into what they've already bought. And it's like a weird thing, but, you know, for anyone who runs programs or runs processes for people, getting someone to start is one thing, and then continuing to support them to get to their end goal is a piece of work. It's kind of the other half of being the doctor is, like, I'm not only a doctor, I'm also making sure that this person is motivated and connected to what their goal is so that they can do the hard work of changing their lifestyle and making the effort that they're going to need to get to their goal. So the book has really helped to support people on that journey who then will be way more motivated and find that ease of, I feel like anyone who has read even a chapter in that book becomes an instant fan, right? They're like, oh my God, she's amazing. I can't believe I'm working with her. And then they're more likely to do all the things that I ask them to, which only gets them better results. So, yeah.
Do you think that comes from them being a little starstruck by you?
I don't think it's so much starstruck because I feel like I have a very approachable personality, but I think that the book just gives them that, like, that depth of thought process that I cannot, like, I could convey it all in an appointment. It would just take us hours and hours to go through our appointment.
Right.
So in our visits, it's very much like, okay, where are you at? What's happening? Here's my plan. And that's about all we have time for. But when they read the book, they get the context of why did I create this plan? And then once they understand even a little bit of what's happening, then they're more likely to feel like, oh, I know that this person, this doctor that I chose is really going to help me get to my goal because she explains this so well in the book, right? And once they understand that, then it's like my job becomes 10 times easier.
Well, it's almost like, you know, since you've got it in the book and people still have, I think, a large degree of reverence for people who write books as well as books in general, the fact that you're referring them back to your book, I think helps to boost their confidence. And so it sounds like you're using the book not only as a lead generation magnet for yourself, but to build ongoing confidence and motivation that, yes, they're on the right track, they're doing the right thing, and you're pointing them to specific chapters that fit wherever they are in the process to help motivate them and give them ongoing confidence to complete the journey.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's really well said.
Well, here comes the big question now. Knowing what you know now about the process of book publishing, would you do it all over again?
Yes. I would do it all over again, but differently. And by that, I just mean that I think when I go into writing my next book, my plan is to make sure that it's really clear what the end goal is from the book. Like, how does this support growing the business? Because at this point, I feel like at least the foundation of my message is out there. So that is not so much of a motivation anymore. At this point, it would be the next book really has to have very practical, tangible outcomes. And I think that, you know, if and when I do it again, the plan will be to have that built in.
Well, those are wise words for anybody listening to this who's thinking about publishing their first, second, or maybe 50th book, depending on where they are in the process. Well, Dr. Aumatma, how can listeners reach out to you and contact you and or purchase your book?
So our book is on Amazon. It's called Fertility Secrets, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Baby Making. And if you are looking to get in touch, you can reach us through our website, which is holisticfertilitycenter.com. That's holisticfertilitycenter.com.
Well, great. Dr. Aumatma, I appreciate you being our guest today on Business Innovators Radio, and I appreciate all of you listening to today's broadcast. Take care, and we'll see you soon on our next episode.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.